Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. We are going chapter by chapter in the book of Genesis, and today we are in Genesis chapter 25. This chapter starts with the death of Abraham, and then it goes to the lineage of his two sons, Ishmael and then Isaac. And as we continue on with the descendants of Isaac, we come to his two sons, actually twins, Jacob and Esau.
And this chapter shares a really familiar story to many of us, the selling of the birthright. Now, before we get into that, let me just explain what a birthright was, what that meant back in these times. The birthright was given to the firstborn son, and it was really making him the head of the household in the instance when his father would die. He would become the head of the household. He was the priest of their home. It was a religious responsibility. And what's really important to recognize here specifically in this family is that this is a family from Abraham, who was chosen by God to be the father of the generations to come, all the way up to the very lineage of Christ himself. And so the son holding that birthright had that promise of being in the lineage of Jesus. And yet we see here quickly how the older son, Esau, disregarded that. I'm not going to read the whole story to you. I encourage you to read chapter 25, but specifically speaking of this instance, let's read verses 31 and 32. Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." "Look, I am about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" Now, it is so interesting what Esau was willing to give his birthright for. The birthright held such an honor and was so powerful, and yet in that instance, he cared way more about something temporary than something eternal. It makes us think about our own relationship with God. As sons and daughters of Christ, as brothers and sisters of Christ, we have been given such privilege. And yet do we sometimes take it for granted, similar to how Esau did in this chapter?
No, we do it all the time. We get so stuck on earthly circumstances. We get bogged down with doubt and fear and even just the grip of sin in our lives. And we lose sight of our eternal perspective.
I think we're so focused on instant gratification, which is really what Esau did sometimes, over eternal blessings, right? And so think about that in your own life. It's an interesting concept. Are there things in your relationship with God that you're taking for granted that you're willing to give up or sacrifice for something less important, less valuable, and just an instant gratification? Think about that and pray about that today.
And we also want to invite you personally to Easter Sunday tomorrow morning. It's crazy. And so it's services at 10:15 live right here at Shrewsbury Assembly. I want to encourage you not just to come, but invite somebody with you. We are so looking forward to celebrating Jesus, the risen King, the empty tomb, and another conversation that we will have tomorrow morning. And then we'll be back on Monday for another Daily Dose
for Spiritual Growth.